America's #1 show on pop culture and politics. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth. And it is a great day when a book about ideas, even a book about ideas that may offend some of you, that some of you may strongly disagree with, when a book about ideas becomes a huge bestseller, because it means that Americans are out there talking about and thinking about things that matter. And that's one of the reasons, for no other, that I celebrate the tremendous success of the best-selling book, God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything, by Christopher Hitchens. I actually had the opportunity to read this book on the 4th of July, which to some extent is appropriate since Mr. Hitchens, I should say, is a new American. Christopher, thanks very much for coming on the show.
Oh, very nice of you to ask me.
Well, first of all, let's concentrate just for a moment on the United States of America and your relationship to our country. You became a citizen in April, is that right?
Well, yes, I actually became a citizen on the 13th of that month, which is my birthday and Mr. Jefferson's birthday, author of that declaration.
Yes, and I remember when you were on the show before, we were talking about your fine book about Thomas Jefferson.
Well, it's nice to remember, yes, in a small way I'm his biographer, and I'm an admirer, a guarded one, and I was able to arrange to take the oath at the Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Given the fact that you took the oath as a citizen of the United States, and you're not a refugee here, you weren't driven out of your homeland, the United Kingdom, why did you decide to become an American citizen?
Well, it was essentially a gesture of solidarity after September the 11th. I've been here about a quarter of a century now. I had a green card that actually was a platinum green card, one of those old ones that doesn't run out. I had a European Union passport. I had 3 American children, an American wife. I didn't need to do anything about my status, as it were. But I had the vague feeling, I hope this doesn't sound sentimental, well, what if it does? The vague feeling of cheating on my dues, because I felt a very strong sense of identification with the country that was being most attacked by the jihadists, that had been singled out by them, I think, correctly as their main enemy. And I thought, well, this argument's going to be going on for the rest of my life. I'm certainly going to be taking part in it. I think I ought to sign up properly.
Well, God bless you for that, if you don't mind using that phrase.
No, it's all right. I say thank God myself all the time.
All right. So you became an American, and to some extent, that is also a reflection of the fact, is it not, that you would feel most at home in this country that is now your country of citizenship?
Yes, I mean, the way I put it to people, which again, I apologize in advance if this sounds not sentimental but grandiose, is this. I mean, most of my life I've been preoccupied, you know this because we've been involved in some of the arguments, with the question of revolutions, radicalism, democracy, all these grand questions. And what's become increasingly evident to me in the intervening years, before I made this decision, is that the American Revolution, the one we celebrate on the 4th of July, I'd be perfectly happy to call it Revolution Day instead of Independence Day, is the only revolution still standing. The Russian one is gone, the Chinese one has mutated into something else, the Cuban one is moribund. I won't say the ideas of the French Revolution are completely arcane now, but because liberty, equality, and fraternity and the relationship between them are important. But the only revolution that could be emulated by any other country, and I think profitably, in other words, the revolution that separates the church from the state, is based on the separation of powers, on democracy and on individual rights, and a codified Bill of Rights. Well, name me a place where that wouldn't be a step up from what people have now.
Yeah, look, I certainly agree with you emphatically about what our colleague Norman Podhoretz has called his love affair with America. I think you've conducted a love affair with America, and that's what I wanted to ask you about in the context.
I don't know in what sense, by the way.
Go ahead.
Describe Norman Podhoretz, a colleague of mine. I mean, we've been very hostile to one another on a number of questions for many years, but okay, he's my fellow American.
All right, and your fellow member of the commentariat, if you will.
Yes.
Somebody who also,
yes, sure.
Who makes his living.
And not a commentary magazine.
Right, of course. Okay, but Podhoretz talks about a love affair with America. You've obviously had something of a love affair with America in your 24 years here. Your book, God is Not Great, suggests in the subtitle how religion poisons everything, and then you argue with your normal vivid prose exactly how religion poisons everything. Do you not see a conflict between that position and your choosing to identify with what is today the most religious country in the West, and which always has been? When Tocqueville was here, another foreigner we welcomed, when Tocqueville was here, he described the United States as a nation with the soul of a church. This has always been a deeply religious nation. Can you separate America's religious heritage from what it is that you love about America?
Well, I think I can distinguish it, yes. But first, the revolution we were just talking about of 1776 was largely brought about by people who were very, very skeptical about religion, especially politicized religion.
About established religion. I will agree with you about established religion, yes.
Just to anticipate the point you just made, I mean, in the country of my birth, which, as you said, was England, the population is a great deal more secular, it's true, but we have to pay for a state church. The head of the state in England, I still say we, you notice, you'll forgive that, the head of the state in England is the head of the church as well as the armed forces, and is derived by the hereditary principle. That's the very thing from which the American Revolution succeeded, in fact, in breaking away from. That seems to me to be the absolutely critical thing. The subjective feelings about religion of the Founding Fathers, I don't think are that crucial because they lived before Darwin and before Einstein, but they were surprisingly advanced in my terms, for their time. I personally think that Jefferson was privately an atheist. I can't prove that. It's only a very strong suspicion of mine. I could assert without contradiction, though, that he was not just not a Christian, but very hostile to Christianity.
Despite the fact that, as you know, he conducted Christian services at the Capitol building on Sundays. But let's not
Absolutely, which, by the way, George Washington, who was rather more pious a person, tended to avoid doing.
That's right. And Adams as well.
And tended to stay away from church. So Jefferson was absolutely in favor of all the proprieties, and he knew, as everybody had to know in a period like that, that it was not just politically, but physically risky.
Okay, but let's not get sidetracked at the period of the founding. I mean, we've gone through 231 years since that declaration that you rightly celebrate, and the founders that we rightly celebrate. And through that entire period, America has been a country of great religious passion and enthusiasm. I think you and I would agree that one of the reasons religion is so vital in America is because we have no established church, because it has been a free market in religious ideas.
That's why I'm glad you mentioned Tocqueville so early, because the Tocquevillian conception of religion in the United States is a voluntary association, is something that if you want to build a church, you can't go to the government or the state for it. It's unlawful for them to support such a thing.
Amen.
You have to go to your friends and co-thinkers, or perhaps the fellow members of your ethnic group, no harm in that, and build it yourself. And as a result, there are huge numbers of them, and I've been debating in such places for more or less every other day for the last 3 months and traveling the country doing so. My impression is that I'd have to write a different book for every believer I met, because people go to these churches for a variety of reasons, sometimes social, sometimes charitable, sometimes educational, sometimes ethnic. If you ask them, well, why are you a Baptist? They're very likely to say, well, because my father and mother were. Do you believe, you ask them, that John Calvin was correct about predestination and the elect and hell? They say, well, you know, they don't really like the question.
Okay, I grant that.